All right, guys, for those of you who are following along and want to put a G-Force 101A in your Mustang or Cougar or Ford muscle car, here's the deal. So you got to cut the tunnel open quite a bit. Like I said before, this was already had a Jericho in it. Now, the issue I'm having is you can see how close that shifter is, that ball is to the dash. So I went through every shifter to find the right handle. Couldn't find it. As far as the setback going back, I like this shifter from Long. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this shifter back. It comes at 19.5 inches right here. It can go back to, I want to say 22.25 and 23.25. If I move it back the next step, which is like 22.25, it's going to line up right in the center of this, right about here. That will bring this back plenty because it's already in gear right now if it was in third. So this is how the Cleveland would sit with a stock crossmember and transmission mount. So it looks pretty good. It's right there is about what? 2 degrees negative, meaning the back end of the engine sitting down 2 degrees. And that's how it should be. Or that's the way it is with a factory mount. So you can see if I tilt the thing up, it gets a little bit more. So we want to kind of maintain 0 to 2 degrees if possible. So now we're going to change back to the transmission mount, which is the 1.5 inch. I want to see what that measures. And here's what it looks like with the 1 inch low profile transmission mount. So it's really about, looking at it, it's like 3 degrees. And before it was maybe a 2. Does it make that much of a difference? I don't know. You want that driveline angle as straight as possible, at least in relationship to where it's the engine's sitting in the compartment. But I'll buy the other mount. We'll see what we can do. Pull the transmission now and see about making sure everything fits well. All right, guys, so let me kind of give you a quick rundown of what I'm trying to do. Now, what I need to do is move the shifter back at least 2 inches so I have more room between the dash. You saw that. Now, the next thing I wanted to do, I'm going to achieve that by this nice bracket that Leonard Long sent me. Actually, Chris sent it to me. Thanks, Chris. He works for Leonard. He runs Long shifters and also the appropriate length rods because it's at 19.5 inches is what it was sent at, and that's just too far ahead towards the dash. So what I need to do is move it back. So the option was it's at 19.5. The option was 22.25 and like 23.25, something like that. So I picked the middle of the road. Now, with that said, to get the transmission to clear this part, I had to go with a low profile mount, which was 1 inch tall. The mounting for this transmission is a Turbo 400, both the output shaft and also the transmission mount. So here's the Ford stuff, right? We've seen this before. Ford mount for basically everything other than this. This is for a C4 and a top loader. Now, this thickness of this is 1.71. In theory, if I can put this back underneath the transmission and mount that transmission, the engine should be at the exact same angle that it was from the factory. Now, I'll show you right now what it looks like with the factory crossmember and this bolted up in there. I have a different crossmember that's drilled. You'll see the angle now. Now what I do is I take that out and I put the low profile mount in. Now watch it change. So it goes from about 1 degree negative to about 3. Now that would probably be okay, but it's kind of close to the drive shaft loop and I want it more centered in that area. So I'm gonna try to get 0 degrees. So Chris at Long Shifter said I could get a -8 that's an angle, get rid of this. That'll give me a little more clearance. I have about 1 1/8 inches that I can go to stock location between where the vent is, hits the floor. So that's my goal, take that out. So I just ordered that stock. It's a GM mount that's the same thickness as this Ford, which is 1.71 inches. So I'll get that in. What I'm gonna do now is pull the transmission out. I gotta massage the floor a little bit, kind of clean up that area where it looked like it was tore out by a bear. So I wanna make that a little bit more profiled and nice. And then the rods, I wanna get more clearance in there so they don't rub or touch. So what I'm gonna do is lift the transmission up, jack it up. There, it's hitting the floor. I'm gonna pop out this. Now, what I'm gonna do here is put some Dykem here, some blue machinist dye, to outline that hole, put it up, set the transmission down, and hopefully make a mark for it. So let's do this. Hopefully I can do it neat. You don't need much, just enough to outline the area. Hard to see, it's dark. That light's useless up in the front I put up there. Let's lower it down. Make sure it's down there good. Well, who knew about that? Got part of it. Yeah, I can figure that out. I can make it work. So what I did is, now you can see I transferred the mount from the transmission onto this Crossmember. So I got this one centered with what I thought would be the perfect place. So I'm going to clean off that blue machinist dye so I can get my Sharpie hopefully to stick, at least get an idea and outline. You know, look how big these slotted areas are for the Crossmember. So it doesn't really make that much of a difference. I just want to have it be lined up. And then when I put it back together, it should line up perfect. And then I'll do the same thing here. Hopefully I can be right on the money. So I center punched them close enough, I think, for government work. Let's see what we can do. Try a little bit bigger. Black product. Good sharp drill bit goes through up and up. Well, don't look pretty, but that's going to work. all these bolts line up. Gotta be kidding me, man. Nice. Nice. Well, I like it. Let's get a better look at it. You'll see what I mean. All right, guys, so let's revisit this. So here it is. G-Force 101A, bingo. Low profile mount, 1 inch, turbo 400, fits well. What did DragBoss do? Re-drill the stock forward mount. Nice. So now the question is it need to go up higher to get the correct angle of the engine, so to speak? So if this measured 1.71 inches factory with this Crossmember, then I should just have to replicate that, and it should be the exact same angle it was before. So that's our next step. So you can use a stock forward Crossmember with a GM transmission mount, re-drill the area, bingo, you're good to go. All right, guys, so here I'm at DragBoss Garage, jumping in on this G-Force 101A, and what I'm doing is switching over, which I already did, is remove this plate here, which has a shifter like this, and place this plate, which now moved it back quite a bit. I'm probably almost 2 inches, I'm thinking. I think it's gonna be perfect, I'm hoping. So, I never did this before, work on a transmission with these type of rods. So I kind of unhooked them from here, and now I'm gonna change the rods that they gave me, which is replace these 3 rods with the longer ones. So it can't be that hard, doesn't look like it is. Just try to keep everything the same, but the shifter itself, I just got this on. Here, I'll show you. I like taking stuff apart, but I mean, it's a pretty heavy duty shifter. There's no doubt about that. Meaty, man, you can bang this thing for sure. So, and then there's the bracket I had changed, and you can see how it moved it back. So that's gonna be good. I can't wait. Here, so you can see, I'll use my left hand. So I'm pretty pumped, man. I wonder what it's like to drive something with 600 horse at a 4-speed. It's gonna be quite a trip, man. And if that match race deal works out with Rusty and Frank, that'll be nice. Make sure that's good. So I just switched this reverse rod actually and put this in place already, which seemed to work out. I just undid the rod end. I'll put the new lengthened end in and on. Hopefully it screws on, no problem. Having to move the adjustment nut, so in theory these rods should be all adjusted the same length, just moved back a little bit and compensated. That's what I'm going to say. rods are all nice and loose. Yeah, this is the stuff I don't like messing with, is shifters, adjustment. I like it when it's all ready to bolt in. Now I've already messed with it, but shouldn't be that big of a deal. Should go together just the way it comes apart. So not much to see other than this. But it's nice to see this go back together. I was kind of worried about switching this. Now I can't kind of wait to see what it's like. I'll snug everything back together, get it done. We'll have to test it out. All right, guys, so here's the finished product. So these are the rods that I had changed here. These 3 rods here, and this bracket right here. So it went well without any issues. I Loctited everything. I used blue Loctite. Looks like they had red, but I used blue. So you want to make sure this neutral key, so to speak, slides in easy after you've adjusted it without any issues. And one of the best things they say to do is, if you're going to take the shifter apart, leave it bolted to the tail housing and unbolt the tail housing from the transmission. It's easier to do that than to mess with these rods, because I'll tell you, those things are tight. So this is how it works. I got that. This is a neutral position. Bring it over here. It's not very stable on here. There's first up here, second, third, fourth. So kind of bring that over. First, second, third, fourth. And then to get into reverse, you got to kind of hard to do it without being stable. There. And that puts it into reverse. So should be fun, I'm telling you. The guy, Chris, that helped me out with this stuff, with the plate and stuff and the rods, told me, he drives his car on the street with one of these, and he said, it's a breeze. You'll get used to it. You don't even need the clutch. He says he just drives it nice, and you just kind of get the gas and speed of the flywheel and the clutch together, I guess, and it shifts like butter. Let me tell you, dropping the clutch at 6 grand is going to be an adventure in this car. Thanks for watching DragBoss Garage, where you're always seeing and learning something new. Stay tuned for the rest of the build.